Subscribe because it's free.
The Galactic Union had always viewed humanity with wary curiosity. They were the only species from a death world, a planet so hostile that no other sentient race could have survived its evolution. Earth, a class, 12 death world, was a place where life clawed its way forward against impossible odds. The other species of the galaxy, most from lush and peaceful worlds, couldn't understand how humans thrived in such chaos. They had seen humanity's tenacity in trade, their stubbornness in diplomacy, and their ability to adapt to anything the universe threw at them. But they had never seen what would happen if someone truly wronged them. Nova Terra was supposed to be a new beginning, a beacon of humanity's peaceful expansion, a thriving colony, home to over 1 million souls. It represented everything humans could build when given the chance. They had integrated advanced alien technologies, worked in harmony with the galactic community, and even extended a hand of peace to former rivals. It was meant to be the future. Then, the Velkar came. No warning, no declaration of war, no ultimatums, just fire from the skies. Velkar warships entered orbit under the guise of a diplomatic convoy. They moved past the planetary defenses without resistance, their weapons inactive, their intentions masked. Then, without hesitation, they unleashed destruction. Plasma beams seared through the atmosphere, striking cities, obliterating entire districts before emergency sirens even had time to sound. Automated defenses struggled to activate, but they were cut down before they could respond. The Velkar struck with surgical precision, ensuring no critical infrastructure survived. Children burned in their homes. Families were torn apart in an instant. Hospitals were reduced to craters of molten slag. The attack lasted a single hour, and when it was over, Nova Terra was nothing more than a graveyard. The Velkar didn't even remain to survey the damage. They left as quickly as they arrived, their mission complete. They assumed there were no survivors. They were wrong. Deep in a collapsed bunker, beneath tons of wreckage, one man still clung to life. A colonial engineer named Elias Grant, bloodied, burned, barely conscious. He pulled himself toward a single operational terminal. His breath was ragged, his vision blurred, but he had enough strength for one final act. His fingers trembled over the console as he activated the emergency beacon. A single message was sent, short and damning, the last word of the dying world. "We are betrayed. They came without warning. They burned our children. Let it be known, Deathworlders do not forgive." The message raced across the stars, intercepted by Terran command. It was played in the war chambers of Earth, on every major colony, in every station where humans still drew breath. And in that moment, something fundamental changed. Humanity had seen war before. They had fought, they had bled, they had suffered loss. But this was not war. This was extermination. And extermination demanded vengeance. The Galactic Union convened an emergency session. Pacifist species urged restraint, pleading for diplomatic solutions, but their words were drowned out by the silence of human representatives. They did not respond. They did not debate. They simply left the chambers. The Union knew what it meant. The machine of war had already been set in motion. Within hours, the Terran fleets mobilized. Every ship, every soldier, every ounce of human ingenuity was now directed at a single goal: the complete and utter eradication of the Velkar Dominion. There were no ultimatums, no negotiations, no threats, just a slow, inevitable march of Deathworlders preparing to unleash something the galaxy had never seen before. The Velkar at first dismissed the response. They had seen human warships before. Strong, certainly, but nothing compared to the overwhelming power of the Dominion. To them, humanity was just another aggressive species that would learn its place. Then the first attack came. Not a battle, not an invasion, a surgical strike. The Velkar's largest shipyard, a facility responsible for building the bulk of their fleet, simply ceased to exist. Every ship under construction was reduced to molten wreckage. Every dry dock collapsed under its own weight. The destruction was so precise, so devastating, that it seemed impossible. But the reality was far worse. Humans had planned this. They had infiltrated the shipyard weeks before, planting nanoplague bombs in key structural points, waiting for the right moment to trigger them. The Velkar lost 20% of their fleet before a single human soldier had set foot on their soil. Panic spread through the Dominion. Their leaders scrambled for answers. How had the humans struck so fast? How had they bypassed security? How had they known the weaknesses in their infrastructure? But the truth was far more terrifying than they realized. Humanity had been studying them for years. They had mapped out their vulnerabilities, analyzed their tactics, and prepared contingency plans for every scenario. And now, for the first time, those plans were being executed. Across Velkar space, colonies went dark. Key resource stations suffered catastrophic failures. Supply lines collapsed without explanation. Communications were hijacked, with terrifying broadcasts replacing normal transmissions. The messages were always the same. You will understand why Deathworlders do not forgive. It was no longer just war. It was something else. Something worse. Something the Velkar had never imagined. Humanity did not seek to win battles. They sought to erase them. And in the cold, infinite void of space, the Velkar began to understand what true fear felt like. The response is immediate. While the Galactic Union debates, humanity acts. There are no drawn-out discussions, no diplomatic channels, no hesitation. The Terran War Council convenes within hours of the distress call. Every human leader, from the outer colonies to the core worlds, knows what must be done. A unanimous decision. War, not for conquest, not for negotiation, for extermination. Fleet mobilization begins before the Velkar even realize what's happening. Humanity's war machine is unlike anything the galaxy has seen before. Cold, calculated, relentless. The Union struggles to comprehend how quickly Terran forces prepare. A full-scale interstellar war usually takes months, even years, to coordinate. Humanity moves in days. But their first strike is not with weapons. It's with fear. Across Velkar space, every communication network, every news feed, every data stream is hijacked at once. A single message is broadcast on an endless loop. The ruins of Nova Terra, burning cities, charred bodies, the final transmission of a dying world. And then, words spoken in a voice devoid of emotion. You will understand why Deathworlders do not forgive. The Velkar dismiss it at first. Psychological warfare? A desperate bluff. They do not understand. They will. The first real blow comes at Torashka shipyard, the largest in the Velkar Dominion, home to nearly a third of their fleet production. The station is a fortress, heavily guarded, impossible to assault directly. Humanity does not need direct assaults. They need efficiency. 3 weeks before the war declaration, human infiltrators, engineers, scientists, quiet ghosts in the shadows, had already been there. A nanoplague, microscopic machines designed to eat through Velkar alloys, have been carefully deployed across the station's infrastructure. When the activation signal is sent, the effects are immediate. The outer hulls begin to collapse. Entire docking bays implode as their structural integrity fails. Engines detonate in their cradles. Starships, unfinished and fragile, fall apart like sand in the wind. 20% of the Velkar fleet is gone. Before a single shot is fired, the panic is instant. The Velkar warlords, so confident, so assured of their strength, now realize they do not understand their enemy. Their fleets scatter, commanders screaming conflicting orders. The High Command demands retaliation, but there is no clear enemy to strike. No fleets waiting in formation. No vulnerable targets. Just silence. Then the second message arrives. You are prey. Run. It will not matter. Across the Dominion, terror spreads like wildfire. Entire border colonies are abandoned overnight as civilians flee in blind panic. Some try to surrender, broadcasting pleas for mercy. They are ignored. The war has not yet begun. Because the humans are not hunting yet. They are still preparing. The Velkar had prepared for war. They had fleets, weapons, fortresses. They had conquered a dozen species before. They thought they understood combat. They did not understand vengeance. The first true battle of the war is not a battle at all. It is an execution. The Velkar's capital defense fleet, 50 warships, bristling with weapons, sits in high orbit over Velcora Prime, their homeworld. They are waiting, scanning the void for incoming fleets. They believe they will see humanity coming. They don't. The first ship to fall doesn't even register an attack. One moment, it is intact. The next, its reactor detonates from within. Then another, and another. The command ship watches in horror as their fleet begins dying one vessel at a time, without a single human ship in sight. Sabotage. Weeks before the war began, human operatives had already been among them. Velcar officers, corrupted with bribes or coerced through threats, had unknowingly allowed their doom on board. Small, untraceable devices hidden in key systems, waiting for activation. 30 warships are gone before the first human fleet even arrives. When they do, it is not a battle, it is a slaughter. Terran warships move faster than Velcar models, hit harder, think smarter. They do not fight by Velcar rules. They fire weapons a Dominion has never seen before. Hyper-accelerated tungsten rounds that punch through warships like paper. EMP pulses that leave entire squadrons drifting helplessly, hunter-killer drones that rip into hulls and drag crew into the void. Within minutes, the entire Velcar defense fleet is erased. On the surface, chaos erupts. The ruling caste scrambles for evacuation. They send desperate messages to the Galactic Union, begging for intervention. They demand negotiations. The response is silence. Then the bombardment begins. The Terran fleet does not glass the planet. That would be merciful. Instead, they target every means of escape, every military installation, every leadership compound. They leave the civilian infrastructure intact. But the government, the warlords, the military elite, they are being erased. Velcar soldiers, trained for planetary defense, prepare to resist. They assume a ground war will be their advantage. They assume humans will invade with traditional forces. Instead, the sky turns black. Orbital drop pods, thousands of them, begin raining down. But they do not carry infantry. They carry autonomous war machines, mechanized terrors designed for one purpose: extermination. The Velcar army does not fight a battle. They fight for survival. They lose. By the time human boots touch the ground, the war is already over. The planetary leadership, once so proud, is dragged from their bunkers, brought before the Terran commanders. They plead, they bargain, they offer reparations. The human commander looks at them and speaks only once. Was Nova Terra given a chance to surrender? The executions begin. Across the Dominion, Velcar warlords flee into deep space. They believe they can escape, rebuild in the shadows. They do not understand that there is nowhere left to run. The hunt has begun. There is no negotiation, no treaties, no peace talks. The Velcar Dominion, once fear across the stars, is dying in the dark. Humanity is not just winning the war. They are ensuring there will be no one left to fight the next one. The last remnants of Velcar leadership flee to hidden strongholds, deep space stations, forgotten colonies on the fringes of the galaxy. They believe distance will save them. They believe isolation will protect them. They are wrong. One by one, their safe havens fall silent. It is never an invasion, never an open attack, just a loss of communication. Then, days later, debris fields where colonies once stood. No distress signals, no survivors, just silence. The Galactic Union watches in horror. They had tried to reason with the humans, to convince them to accept victory and move on. But they are beginning to understand. This is not war. This is extinction. The last Velcar Emperor hides on a barren moon, surrounded by mercenaries, the most secure location in known space. He has spent his entire life ruling through fear, but now he knows true terror. His advisors whisper shadows moving in the void, ships appearing and vanishing without a trace, guards found dead, eyes frozen open in horror, without a single wound. Then, one day, the Emperor wakes up to find he is the only one left. The air is cold. The lights are dim. His guard, his council, his servants, all gone. No sounds. No struggle. No blood. Just absence. He stumbles through empty halls, calling for someone, anyone. No one answers. He reaches the command room. The monitors still function. One screen flickers, a single message waiting for him. There is nowhere left to run. The lights go out. The Velkar Dominion is no more. The war is over. But the galaxy will never be the same. The Terran High Command broadcasts a final message to the Galactic Union. Let this be a lesson. Deathworlders do not forgive. Deathworlders do not forget. And Deathworlders do not lose. There is no response. There is nothing to say. The Union, once dismissive of humanity, now lives in fear of them. Treaties are rewritten. Borders are redefined. No species will ever dare cross Earth again. The stars have learned something they will never forget. No one escapes the wrath of a Deathworlder.